Hey, my name is Khadija. I'm the CEO of Hennasooq, and I specialize in henna natural hair color and healthy Ayurvedic hair care. All hair types, all hair textures are included in this journey. I'm here to support you in adding in natural steps, natural masks, natural treatments. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to mix up organic indigo, and we're going to get into it. I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about indigo. So indigo has this amazing blue-black kind of stain, and they use it to, color fabrics, think about jeans, and also in art, and even to dye hair. When I was in Morocco, I saw vats of indigo that they were soaking it so that they can pull, all that blue natural type of, dye from it. So that way they could stain leather. It was so cool. It was just amazing to see that hands-on. Now indigo, when you use it all by itself, it can give your hair that blue-green kind of tone. And I did say green, yes, that kind of bluish, greenish kind of, hue. So if you ever tested it, let's say on, some blonde braids that you had some extensions and you want to test it out, you can see how it stains it. It's really, really cool actually. The only problem with that is that you don't want that green hue in your hair. I mean, unless you do. But I just want you to be aware that if you're covering grays and your aim is not kind of like getting that bluish, greenish tone, then you definitely want to make sure that you use it with henna. Think about it like paints actually. And I think this is where a lot of people get confused. They're like, well, colors, you think about chemical colors, like the colors ready to use. We're a DIY brand, so I'm showing you how to do it in a DIY method. And why DIY? Because you get better coverage that way. Honestly, you really, really do, because you're using it at full strength. And like paints, when you use henna and indigo, because henna is your base, and henna also helps the indigo cling to your hair strand much better. So using a good high quality henna powder is key, not a blend. It's not enough henna to help the indigo cling very well. So that's a common mistake that people do make and don't realize that they're not getting as good coverage. Maybe sometimes there are exceptions that people maybe are saying, oh well, it worked for me. It can possibly work, but the more gray you have, the more that will change. So it's really important. If you want really good coverage, you might as well just start with good products. What you're gonna get in this range is you can manipulate it to get reddish brown, you can get brown tones, you can get dark brown, and even up to black tones naturally, coloring your hair. And it is permanent dye, so it's going to last at least, a good 4 to 6 weeks. Of course, your hair is gonna grow. And it doesn't stop grays, but it does color them, and then you could do a root touch up in between, whatever is most convenient for you. Let's get into actually how to mix it, because indigo is definitely a little picky, it's a little fussy. It requires a magic touch when you're mixing it. So let's get into that. So when you're mixing indigo, some people do like to add salt. They feel like it helps it cling better to their hair strand. I don't personally ever use salt, honestly. I haven't noticed a huge difference, but if you are comfortable with using salt and it's working for you, you could definitely continue to do so. I'm not saying that it's wrong, it's just, it's not kind of ideal in like the salon setting too. So when I do it, so I don't see a huge difference. Where I see a huge difference with really good coverage, and you definitely have to watch these videos that I've already put out under the henna hair coloring right on our YouTube channel right here. That is the application process. When you're applying it really well, thoroughly and thickly, and you've opened up your hair strands. If you want to add salt, this is 100 grams in the bowl over here. For salt, you probably could add like 1 to 2 teaspoons. I don't think you need a whole lot if you're gonna use salt. And definitely when you're mixing it, you definitely want to use warm to hot distilled water. It's going to trigger, the dye release. Always warm to hot, never boiling, never cold. And as I'm going to show you about the consistency, I like to keep indigo thick on purpose, because that thickness is going to help it mix with the henna. Then I add more liquid as needed. So that's kind of been always my go-to. The runnier it is, the more diluted it is, and then the chances of you getting good color coverage are also affected by the consistency as well. I want to mention is the aloe vera powder. So you can add the aloe vera powder to the henna, especially since each henna has a different time for dye release, and that has to be started first. So usually that's sitting for a few amount of hours depending on the henna that you're using from us, and you can add the needed aloe vera powder to the henna before, you know, adding it to the indigo, because you don't need to do it really twice. But let's say you're doing a two-step process. Remember I talked about getting black tones? So I'm, in this case, going to show you how you would add aloe vera powder to the indigo if you were just using it by itself. And again, this is 100 grams, so I'm going to add about 1 to 2 teaspoons and mix this up nicely. Just be very gentle when you're mixing it, because remember it's powder, and sometimes for some of you the powder might be a little, you know, a little irritating to breathe it in. Then you can add your warm to hot distilled water slowly, a bit at a time. What's really cool about indigo kind of floats on the water sometimes. I don't know if any of you ever notice that, but it's like floating. Like the indigo powder doesn't really absorb the same way henna does. So that's another reason I like to keep it thick. I like to get it triggered and get it going as such, and then I can still keep on adding water as needed. And it's better to eye it. You know, ooh, see, already spilling a little bit. We're already making a little mud mess. And the indigo, it's ready pretty quick actually. That's why we mix it secondary after the henna. This is ready in like 20 to 30 minutes. Some people don't mind the scent of indigo, but if that's not really for you and you're like, I don't really like the smell, you can add a little bit of essential oils to get it to smell really nice. So just a few more things that I definitely want to share with you. The indigo is going to sit for about 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to let that rest. Sometimes people want to know too, should they keep mixing it while it's achieving dye release? It's going to be hard for you to gauge if dye release has been achieved, because as you keep mixing it, you're going to, you know, change the color back to, you know, how you see it right now, kind of that just that green tone. But if you let it sit, then you're going to see this metallic-y blue sheen develop. That's when you know dye release has been achieved and it's ready to use. And then you might be wondering also, well, how long do I leave it on my hair though once it's ready to use and I have my whole recipe and I'm just ready to go? Leave it on your hair for at least 3 to 4 hours. Yeah, it's a bit long. So some of you might be like, my gosh, that is so long. That's crazy. You can cut the time in half if you just go ahead and use a heat cap or a steamer, and you'll get really good color results and good coverage. That'll be a good way to lessen the time, because yes, I understand 3 to 4 hours is long. Do note that if you still do need more moisture, you do have to use a leave-in afterwards, and I highly recommend that you use the cleansing co-washes that we have, because they're very, very, very restorative. Created these so they can restore moisture back, so I highly recommend these, and it won't take the color out. So definitely use this after you're rinsing out your henna hair color, or if you're just using indigo, you know, the indigo, of course, just use that to rinse everything out really well and easily and add moisture back, and then use in your regular leave-ins. That will help restore the moisture. Side note, don't use a deep conditioner just yet. If you're planning to use deep conditioner, give your hair at least 5 to 7 days to allow the color to fully settle and fully take in your hair. And don't do heavy oiling treatments. Those could be two things that could take the color out. So just make sure you're careful with letting it fully settle and then go back to your regular routine. And some other really pressing questions that people ask a lot are, you know, often, well, what happens if none of this works and the grays are just, you know, still there, or they look reddish or, you know, orangey, or you just have this whole situation and you're frustrated because you're like, I just took all this time and now it's not even fully covered. What do I do? That can happen. Remember, this is vegetable-based dyes or plant-based dyes. Grays can be really stubborn, like they really can. So using heat, clarifying before starting with like our soap nut hair wash, that's gonna help open up your hair a lot. That steam, that heat, that, you know, that application video you have to watch, how to apply the henna hair color video that I have, because it just really shows how to saturate, you know, your edges, your hair, making sure that you get really good coverage. And if your hair hasn't taken again to that first time, you can go over it with more indigo. So if you are going to be purchasing some of the henna hair color, try to get a little extra just in case. Just make sure your grays have a good base of henna as well. So they should be kind of reddish orangish. If they're still white, you probably need to do the henna and indigo step. That's another great video that I have right here on our YouTube channel that you must watch. That one's so helpful. So if you have any questions still about indigo that I might have missed, definitely ask them in the comments below. I would love to answer all your questions about henna hair coloring, about how to get your indigo right. And let me know what you learned from this as well. You know, what did you discover? What was like that you didn't know, but now you know? And let me know how I can support you in your henna and Ayurvedic hair care journey. Well, thank you for tuning in for another amazing Hennasooq video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget, I know you're about to click off, but don't forget to subscribe. I have videos for you every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. See you next time. Bye.